Now at supertalk.fm/watch and also channel 70 on computers and TV sets all over the place. It is the one and only Matt Steffy, Law Professor, Mississippi College School of Law. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. I'm good. I'm glad there's not more than one of me. One is at least more than enough.
You know what? To be honest with you, I've heard that echoed so many times.
Of all people, I bet you have.
Yes.
I bet you have.
You're looking good. Looks like you even shaved this morning. That's summertime.
Last night, it gets a little gnarly around here, but I thought for you, Paul, we'll go the extra mile.
Well, live and in living color and shaved and looking good. It's so. What are your summer plans now? Are you working summer?
Well, yes and no. I'm not. I don't have a course to teach.
Yeah.
I'm actually still grading from the spring semester, which is a loathsome and lonely business. But that'll wrap up next week, and then I've got some research to do, and then hopefully prepare to be back in an actual classroom, not a Zoom screen in the fall.
Yeah. Matt, did you escape COVID, or did you contract it, or what? Did you get your shots?
No, we escaped, hid and escaped. Our family did, which I am deeply grateful for. Had many students who weren't quite so fortunate, a few colleagues, but so far so good. Although I hear it's not over, so we won't fully celebrate tour.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's ever going to be over. We're hearing, you hear different things over and over and over. Somebody mentioned earlier about it changes. It's almost like Simon Says.
Right.
It was Candace Owens on with Tucker. She said it's like Simon Says. Fauci is like Simon Says. You wear the mask. You don't wear the mask. I tell you to do this. Don't do this. So we never know, and I think a lot of that comes from just not knowing exactly what the properties of that
think
virus
that's
are.
the nature of science, right? We learn we learn more. We adjust. It's been wear the mask for quite some time, unless you're vaccinated. Yeah. That is, unless your family's at elevated risk. So you need a matrix. You need a decision tree.
As far as you know, you are back in class when the classes resume this fall.
That is the plan. That is the plan.
Let me get your take on
a
couple
cases
of things
are
here.
encouragingly down. So that's
I mean, for the past 24 hours, in the last reports, statewide, we only had 42. And when you start thinking about that, how many people have the flu? Does anybody get the flu anymore? So we had 42 cases over the entire state that tested positive, and only 2 deaths. And again, we don't know what the circumstances are with that.
Right. That's encouraging. That's all very encouraging. No, the test positivity numbers are down. Yep. Here's hoping. Yep. Here's hoping.
What's your take on, first of all, the state Supreme Court and the initiative process? Looking at it from a law professor, my understanding is there's some rumblings that there will be people who are filing the motion as far as voter ID is concerned. There is mixed messages coming from some of our state leaders who've been on the program with me that they took care of that in a legislative session. Maybe not all of it is, but I don't know. It's a little bit confusing. Your thoughts?
Well, it's quite a bit confusing. It's a rather startling decision, I think, the series of arguments that they accepted versus the series of arguments they rejected and articulated by the Attorney General on behalf of the Secretary of State. That normally when you look at constitutional interpretation, if you didn't know the subject matter of this amendment and it had been voter ID and not medical marijuana, I'm not sure it comes out the same way. I think that the timing, the subject, it was just ripe, I guess, to throw out the whole initiative process. I don't think this outcome was inevitable. I mean, after all, there are statewide appointments that still use the old congressional districts. I do think the fact that this process was never tinkered with set it up for this kind of a an outcome. As far as voter ID goes, we'll have to see when the time comes. On the matter of at the level of principle, if this process has been void ever since we lost a congressional district, a federal congressional seat, that is,
Mm-hmm.
then you would think voter ID and eminent domain are equally constitutionally infirm, unless the court finds a reason to say that a lawsuit against those subjects is somehow too late.
Well, not to confuse this, because if there is a legal challenge to voter ID, and if you're working on that, as you said, on the same precepts or the same reasons they did on this one, they would have to say voter ID, or any other one that's challenged would be equally in error, but it has to go through that whole motion. And I think what the Supreme Court
That's
said,
right.
check me on if I'm wrong on this, is basically if you want to file that, bring it through the same motions as the initiative
Right.
process or as medical marijuana, then, come on. But again, the Secretary of State was on with me and made the announcement when he was in here that he was not going to challenge the or request a proceeding, further proceedings on this.
No, well, that's right. And that further proceeding is a request for rehearing, a usually vain last gasp effort, regardless, because you go back to the same panel that just ruled against you and said, really, if you look at it, there's a mistake of law or fact. It seldom changes the outcome, very seldom, and almost never when you're looking at a 6-3 or larger decision. You've got to, you'd have to flip 2 votes, and that's almost, it's rare beyond words. So I think
if you and I, we've had a lot of discussion over the years. You look at the proceedings itself. Don't look at it from the left or from the right, but just something that goes into the Constitution of the state, which surpasses or bypasses every local official, every state official, all the courts, everything. It bypasses everything as far as the appropriation of money, the execution of laws, zoning, whatever it happens to be. It is in the Constitution, and most people have no idea what they're voting on. Doesn't that lend itself in some way to have some concerns that this process is broken now, because we've infused in this last one $6 million in a PR to make everybody in the state believe that medical marijuana was the most concerning thing in our state?
Well, yes,
Okay,
comma,
thank
but. Yes. I don't think that legislating by constitutional amendment is optimal. That is, having a 10 or 15 page long amendment that looks more like regular legislation. Because once it's in the Constitution, it's equally difficult to have it extracted. It ties the hands of the ordinary branches of government. The but is this. The but is, do you think the ultimate wisdom lies with people, or the ultimate wisdom lies with our elected representatives? Because I do think there's something to be said for a way for the people to reach out directly when they think that their elected officials, they only elect one of many. They elect one of many. And when they think the many are ignoring their views, that's kind of a pressure valve.
Got a quick break here. I'm going to come back and ask you.
Constitutional amendment.
Understand that. When we come back, I'm going to ask you what your advice is to the people who want to take this to the next level as far as any challenges from the law professor, Mississippi School of Law, Matt Steffy.